Hey everyone, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the weekly vlog. So I'm in a new space. This is actually my new office. So since the last time I saw you, we moved. And really the reason we moved is because I needed an office. So let me back up and tell you a little story. You might remember this, or you might, have joined the Brightline eating tribe more recently. But on August 3rd of 2016, I shot a vlog on location in my office at my college, and it was my last day there. So I was packing up my office. I was crying, or I think maybe I burst into tears like right after Jen turned off the camera, and I started sobbing hysterically. Maybe you didn't see that. But anyway, it was emotional, and I was packing up my office, the movers were coming, and it was my last day as a professor. That was it. I'd handed back tenure. So I packed up my office, and then those boxes went into storage. Like the moving people just kept them. Basically, they're like a moving / storage company. So they kept the boxes in storage, all my books, all my papers, all my office supplies, my monitor, all kinds of stuff, just all my stuff, my office, all my stuff, all kinds of files, all kinds of tech equipment, because I used to, record stuff in grad school and stuff, and I had all this like old equipment. Anyway, it all got put into storage. And from then until like now, I did not have an office. So I built the Brightline eating movement, led the Brightline eating movement, did every kind of work for this, movement that I did, with no office. So no place to put files, no place to keep books, no place to stash my computer. Like literally, my computer sat like in the guest room, just kind of sitting there. Sometimes I would work on my computer at the kitchen table. Often I would work in my car, believe it or not. I learned how to prop my laptop up off on the space between the steering wheel and the dashboard. And I would use my phone for a mobile hotspot, and I would work in my car, often in the grocery store parking lot. It's kind of funny, but I like my grocery store, Pittsford Wegmans. That's kind of my happy place. And it's very zen for me. And I would just set up camp anyway, it's crazy. So a little while ago, I don't know, 6 months, I lose track of time, I'd hired a home organizer. I don't know if you know these people. There's people who have certifications in decluttering and home organization and stuff to help me organize some areas in the house. And she was like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, I told her about Brightline eating, and she's like, "You don't have, you're growing this big, online thing, and you don't have a space for your stuff. No wonder you feel disorganized. Where's all your stuff?" And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, we had piles of books in the living room, and that's one of the things she helped me thin out, was get rid of a lot of those books. And anyway, she's like, "No wonder you feel disorganized. You don't have a space." And the penny dropped. I was like, from that moment until now, I was like, I really need an office. So I told David, I said, I think I need an office. And we started talking about it. It's like, well, either we need to rent office space or we need to get a different house, because our house was pretty compact and there was no office space in it. I mean, there was the dungeon where I shot my videos and stuff, but other than the red sheet tacked to the wall, there wasn't really. And she was like, "No, you don't want to work down here. You shoot your videos down here, but it doesn't have, there's not a window. There's no creative energy flowing down here. You don't want to work in this dungeon." So, anyway, we weren't really excited about the idea of moving. Still kind of aren't. It happened, but, so we moved because of this office. And so, the name of this vlog is For Everything There's a Season, right? You've heard that saying. It's a great song. It's, sorry, showing my ignorance. I think it's from the Bible. For everything there's a season, right? And this is true in our Brightline eating lives too. So I want you to hold on just a second. I want to show you something. So this right here, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if I got to hold it up, whatever. This is my doctoral dissertation. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's like fancy schmancy verbiage. But Susan Pierce, this diploma witnesses Susan Pierce Thompson has been fulfilled, whatever, Doctor of Philosophy, blah, 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 Board of Trustees on March 7th, 2003. March 7th, 2003. David noticed that the other day. I totally didn't know that. I totally did not know that I received my doctorate on March 7th, 2003. But I believe today is, and I checked my watch because it's got a little date thingy in there. It's March 7th, 2018. So 15 years ago today, I earned my PhD. And after that, I did a 2-year postdoc, and then I spent the next 10 years as a professor. So my postdoc was kind of like being a professor because I taught college courses as a professor and did research kind of like a professor, but I guess I just wasn't getting paid as much. But anyway, so 12 years, basically, I was teaching college courses. And for everything, there's a season. I handed back tenure back in 2016. And now I do this Brightline eating thing. If I think about my Brightline eating journey, it has had very clear seasons. Very clear seasons. I was sitting on the tarmac, I don't know, from some trip a few months ago, and I was talking on the phone with one of our Bright Lifers, one of our earliest Bright Lifers. Dear, dear, dear woman. I haven't asked for her permission, so I'm not going to use her name. She was saying, you know what, Susan, my food's been off. You know, I think this was probably in like November or December, right after I shot that vlog on I think it was called Sweet Surrender. I'd had a deep surrender after like the week after Thanksgiving. I got back from California. Oh my gosh, deep surrender. And I shot that vlog, and she was telling me, she reached out to thank me for that vlog. She said that it turned her around too, that she had been in a season where her food hadn't been on. And, you know, when she first started Brightline eating, her food was great. She lost all her weight. Now she's been, you know, she was in a season for a long time of kind of monkeying around and not, you know, she was a house leader, not feeling great about being a house leader while her food wasn't super clean. And then I shot that vlog on Sweet Surrender, and a new season started for her in her Brightline eating recovery. And she turned over a new leaf. And, you know, if I look back on my Brightline eating journey, there have been several distinct seasons. The first 6 months, so I started in 2003, in May of 2003. The first season was 6 months, and it was clean, it was easy, I lost my weight. But toward the end of it, there were health challenges, and I picked up the food, and that started a 3-month season of hell. That was when I went from a size 4 to a size 24 in 3 months. I got back on track, and that started a several-year season. I think maybe a 2-year season of that was like some of the most fanatical, like rigid, inflexible, like just cult-like kind of working of this, you know, sort of, in my opinion now, sort of a bastardization of this way of life, like where there's no give on anything. And I did that for about 2 years. That led to my husband and I having a falling out where he just was, he couldn't live with me like that. And he was looking ahead to the future. He's like, I don't think I could raise kids with you like this. Like, how would we travel? Your food needs take over everything. So I found a different sponsor in my 12-step program that I was working, and she was much more just sort of balanced and reasonable. And that started a 6-year sort of honeymoon phase where I didn't break my bright lines once. Squeaky clean bright lines for 6 years. Some really hard things happened in our life. Like I got pregnant with twins, and they came prematurely, weighing 1 pound 6 ounces, 1 pound 7 ounces. You know, David left me at the beginning of that stretch. You know, he was gone for 9 months. That was tough. Lots of stuff happened. I didn't break my bright lines once. And and then started another season where I decided to become whole food plant-based, and that sponsor wouldn't sponsor me if I was not eating meat. And so I had to sort of find a different sponsor, and that started a new season. Then I decided to leave 12-step food stuff altogether and try to be a mindful, competent eater. That started a 2.5-month season, did not work. So I came, back to Brightlines, and 2.5 years of squeaky clean Brightlines, not a break. And then, Brightline Eating started, and I started writing the book proposal, started the email list. But at first I was still in that season of 2.5 years of squeaky clean Brightlines. And then I left 12-step programs altogether, and that started a 2.5-year period where I was doing only Brightline Eating for my support, and kind of flexing here and there. Like sometimes I would eat off plan a little bit. Occasionally I'd binge. I'd vlog about it. I kept my weight where it needed to be, but maybe a few pounds heavier than I wanted to be. But my clothes all fit. And ultimately I decided I wasn't as free. And so I got back into a season of like squeaky clean Brightlines and getting support again from people who've done this long before I have. And now I'm kind of in a new season of making that work. Like, squeaky clean Brightlines and, using support from both Brightline Eating and 12-step food programs and seeing how that works. I kind of often wish I was in the Brightline Eating community rather than heading it. Because, I think the main reason that I lean on some 12-step support is it's the place where I can be another bozo on the bus and I'm not the figurehead, And the other reason is that it's the place where I find people who've been doing this longer than I have, which is helpful. 14 years is not nothing, but it's not as long as some people in 12-step recovery have been doing this. So that's helpful too. But there's differences. Brightline Eating, in my opinion, obviously, preaching to the choir, I'm sure, but it's better than a lot of 12-step programs. So I kind of, I go there, but then I'm like, God, why are you guys doing it this way? Like, there's a much saner way to do it, or why aren't we talking about science or whatever? So anyway, so seasons, different seasons. Here I am, the season we have a new house. In lots of ways, it feels like turning over new leaves. And for you in your Brightline Eating journey, I just want to suggest, the idea of looking at it in terms of seasons. Like, we now have people who've been doing Brightline Eating for 1,000 days or 3 years or 3.5 years. Lots of people who've been doing it for 1 and 2 years. And that's long enough to have noticed some seasons, stretches of squeaky clean Brightlines, stretches of struggling a little bit, stretches of getting back on track, stretches of, not using support, stretches of like, oh, now I started a mastermind group and, that might start a new season for you. So I just invite you to think about the seasons in your Brightline Eating recovery. And I want to end with this. If you're in a season that you're not loving and you want to turn it over, right, to start a new season, I invite you to look at it a certain way. I thought of this image a little while back, and it just seems so apropos. Like, if you're struggling with the food, you ever do double Dutch jump rope? You know what I'm talking about? Where there's 2 jump ropes going at the same time, and you got to jump in there and start jumping, right? It's kind of intense, right? Double Dutch jump rope. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to YouTube. I'm sure you'll get a great video on it. So 2 ropes. When you're doing double Dutch jump rope, to get in, you just kind of gotta, you kind of stand back and you just watch. And you're looking for the in. You're looking for the gap, the little hole, like your moment where you could dart in there and then get going. And for anyone who's off track with their food, I just invite that metaphor. Like, watch for the moment. Watch for the moment when you can hop back onto the Brightlines. Like, watch for the gap, the little, usually it's a moment of willingness. It's a moment of surrender. It's a moment of willingness. Some helpful thoughts come up about like, oh, I could call this person, or I could post in the community, or I could write down my food for tomorrow. I could, there's a little, like a thought, and a little crack of willingness, and then you hop into action. Like you jump into action and you just go. Like you just go. From then on, you don't look back. You don't look back. Like you just make it happen. So you're just watching and waiting. And watching and waiting, that might mean that you're eating a whole bunch of food that's not Brightline food, but you're watching and waiting for the moment that you're willing. And that is a way to start a new season. For everything, there's a season. All right, everyone, that's the weekly vlog. So good to be here with you in my new digs. Thanks for joining me. I'll be setting up a video studio at some point in the basement, but for now, we are in the office. I'll see you next week.